Good morning, everybody. I am here with the amazing psychic Liz Cross and our friend Mai Wen Ho. She's a resident health expert, and we are going to do a probe on edible mushrooms, not the psychedelic kind, but the stuff that you saute in a pan and serve with rosemary and garlic, maybe. Um, okay, so I was reading a study recently about cancer and mushrooms, and I've known the link between that. You know, the Japanese have used culinary mushrooms medicinally for a long time. Um, you know, in ancient times and in modern times to actually protect against even like chemotherapy. But this study was interesting because it said that any type of mushrooms, even just like the regular white button mushrooms, if you eat 2/3 of an ounce a day, you can lower your risk for cancer, developing cancer by 45%. And I thought that's pretty cool. It's a pretty easy, thing for people to do. It's a pretty cheap thing for people to do to have some preventative against that. So I want to find out a little bit more about the medicinal effects of mushrooms and what we can do and what everybody can do. Because I mean, cancer is rampant these days, and it's only going to get worse, unfortunately, with the way things are going, with the environments that we live in and everything. So can we ask uh, Menwei Ho what she thinks about just eating, regular white button mushrooms, nothing fancy, and doing what they say, eating a small serving every day? Does that really have an effect against preventive effect against cancer, like a meaningful effect?
So does eating small white button mushrooms every day, small portions, have a preventative against cancer? Yes, but it's very minimal.
Yeah. Okay. So if we were to change the type of mushroom from white button, so let's say shiitake, that's one that's known for having some good effects. Would shiitake be better, or is there a better type of mushrooms to use?
Wild mushrooms are
Mm,
the best. Shiitake, what about those? I mean, a little bit better, but the more wild and natural, the more pure the properties, right?
okay. Well, when I used to live in Canada, every fall in, maybe late August, September, and early October, we would go into the forest and there'd be wild mushrooms just growing everywhere. And there was a few varieties that were pretty safe to pick and identify, and we would go and get them. And it was actually pretty easy. There was nobody else trying to get them out there, so they were just everywhere. So we would get lion's mane would be one, wild lion's mane, and chicken of the woods. And what was the other one that we used to get? Oh God, not portobello's. What the heck are they called? Oh my God, I can't remember the name. Anyhow, so let's go through some of those. If you're in North America, you should be able to get those pretty easily wild if you live in sort of an area in that time of the year. So what about lion's mane? Wild lion's mane. Is that is that particularly good for anti-cancer?
It is.
And
I've never heard of lion's mane mushrooms.
yeah, it's I'll pull it up here on the screen if I can, because it's you can't mistake it. Like you're not gonna mistake it for like a poisonous mushroom because it doesn't even really look like a traditional mushroom at all.
Hmm.
It looks like something alien, really, I think, or like a frozen waterfall or something. I don't. Let's see
Hmm.
here. It's some images on it. The other thing that's cool about it is that it's been linked to see, there it is there. It's almost like this big spongy thing, and
Hmm.
they grow on like the side of logs that are like falling over most of the time. So now
Oh,
that you've seen it, when you go on your hikes in the forest, you'll start to see it everywhere at that time of the year in the fall. And you can just go right over and grab it off and then bring it home and chop it up and put it in a pan with some, some olive oil or some butter, and it just soaks up all that goodness. Um, so yeah, so another popular thing is for people to make extracts with the lion's mane. I actually have an empty bottle of some in front of me here. So can we ask about the lion's mane extract? Is that just as good as harvesting the wild stuff and frying it up and eating it?
the extract of the lion's mane. Lion's mane extract, is that just as good? Is that just as good? No.
No.
I feel, let's ask why. Because I feel like it's in the processing.
Hmm. So
Why
there's
not?
mm,
Let me ask, why is it not as good? The extract. It's leaving a lot of the good stuff behind.
okay. There's a specific, not that I want to get too specific with like endorsing somebody's brand or anything like that, but there is this I don't know what they're called. Mycologist, that's what they're called. Mycologist is someone that studies mushrooms. His name is Paul Stamets, and he makes a specific line of mushroom products that are a little bit different because he's not actually getting the actual extract from necessarily the mushroom itself, but from the mycelium, I believe. So the mycelium is the root system, if you will, of the mushroom. And they're pretty cool because they're actually the largest living organisms on Earth today. There's roots, these roots of mycelium underneath the United States that they go across state lines, like they're gigantic. And I guess they pass information and nutrients to all the different like cultures of mushrooms. So it's pretty cool. But anyways, he makes his mushroom extracts from the mycelium of these different strains of mushrooms. So can we ask Mei Wen Ho, in terms of like having a supplement, grabbing the extract from the mycelium, is that better than doing the alcohol extract? Like, is that meaningfully better?
Having the extract from the mycelium, is that better than doing it from the? Yes, it is. Yes, it is much better. Is it still as good as eating the, lion's mane or the wild mushrooms? It's still not as great as eating the wild mushrooms itself, but that's probably the next best thing.
Okay. Yeah. So he has a brand that does it. It's not endorsing it specifically. I believe there's others if you go online, and what you're looking for is they grab they extract it from the mycelium. So I believe why it works, and you can ask Mei Wan Ho, is that it has a higher beta glucan content. Is that the main ingredient that makes it much better?
And it's called the beta
Glucan.
content. Is that what? Yes, that is the anti cancer property.
Right. So I believe it's like at a higher percentage. Okay. And then the other thing too is that might be easier to get for people as an extract because they can make it themselves quite easy is chaga mushrooms. Have you heard of those before?
No.
So they don't really look like traditional mushrooms. They grow on generally birch trees. So again, back in Canada, and if you live in like Northern Europe and like uh, Eastern Europe in the northern kind of those pine forests, you'll see birch trees and they'll have these little like knobs growing off the side. They look like they might be like gross, like the tree has like a wart or what am I trying to think of? Like a goiter. It looks like a tree goiter. That's how I would describe it. And there's what people do is they go to the tree and they harvest these little chunks of those goiters off the tree. And then they take these chunks and they then make a tea with them at home. So you can buy this pretty relevant, available everywhere year round now. But it was like an ancient remedy of like shamans from like I guess what would you call it? Like from Russia, I guess, or those kind of Eastern European countries. They would use it for all kinds of different things, but I think specifically cancer.
Mhm.
So can we ask Mei Wen Ho if we were to buy these chaga chunks, which are raw, they're right off the tree, and we make a tea with that, is that like equivalent to eating like raw mushrooms, wild mushrooms?
Yes, it is.
Okay, so this is something that's a little bit more available to get. Like you should be able to go to a health store or even obviously order it offline, and you can order these little chunks of mushrooms. So what are the benefits of the shaga mushroom tea? Is that like meaningfully anti-cancer?
You know what she just said? She just said it protects the structure of the brain against Alzheimer's and dementia.
Interesting. Okay, I've used it before when I was back in Canada. Now I was actually given a warning by someone that I respect, that like you shouldn't have it every day all the time. You should be cycling it on and off just because I can't remember exactly what he said now. It's been so long, it's been years, but it has a specific compound that could cause an imbalance in you if you have too much of it, if you're just like drinking this stuff every day, all day. Uh, so he warned me to be careful about it. So what does Mei Wen Ho think about like the dosing of it? Is there any dangers to drinking too much of it?
Yes, you have to have a very minimal amount. And what would be that amount? Like even maybe half a teaspoon.
Of the tea or the dried pieces?
No, of the dried pieces in the tea.
Okay. So did you say half a teaspoon?
Half a teaspoon. If
Okay,
you're
yeah.
going to use it every day,
Okay, yeah. Yeah,
the best way to go about it? Is it like a week on, a week off? No, she's saying like 2 to 3 times a week should be sufficient.
well,
But
that's
this
pretty
is
easy to do.
really good for your brain.
Well, that's good. Okay, that's reasonable.
So for people, so genetically, what about people who are genetically predisposed to like dementia? Excellent for them. Okay, so if that's something she's saying, of course, this isn't official medical advice, this is psychic entertainment only. But what we're getting is that, somebody who's genetically predisposed to Alzheimer's, dementia, this is a really good thing to protect your brain.
Interesting. Okay. Yeah, I don't think I've heard of that. I think, and again, I haven't read into it too much lately, but yeah, I think the original thing was people were using it as like a, something to take if you had cancer. So could we ask Mei Wen Ho, does it have any effects specifically on cancers that's meaningful?
It's more of a preventative. What about
Uh,
if you have cancer?
okay.
I mean,
So,
it's good if you have cancer, but it's more of a preventative. This is complementary to the treatment,
mhm.
but it shouldn't be the be all and end all.
So it has a really high content of melanin, which gives it its dark color. So melanin is a very interesting compound. That's also something that's found in us, right? So the pigment of our skin, if you have a darker skin color naturally, that's because you have a lot of melanin in the skin. And obviously, when you go out tanning, then in response to the radiation, your body produces more melanin to protect you from higher radiation. So I was always wondering that if we consume high melanin foods or teas like this, does that give us a greater protection from, let's say, let's first ask like the sun. Can this give us more protection from the sun if we drink the tea?
Would drinking the tea that's just high in melanin give us greater protection from the sun? Would it give us greater protection from the sun? No, but
Okay, go ahead.
no, because sun damage is sun damage.
Okay, but would it help us have our natural protection increased?
Would it help us increase our natural protection? Not really,
Hmm.
she's saying. What about just is it
Melanin.
melanin? Sorry, it's early. Folks, it's early. It's like 5 o'clock where photon is, it's 6 o'clock where I am. Where melanin is, would that consuming things that are high in melanin, does that protect you from the sun damage? She's saying no.
How about like radiation in general?
What
So
about
like radiation, like man-made radiation.
what about man-made radiation? Yes.
Interesting. Okay. So obviously the extreme example would be if you live in Fukushima or something like that. But also, we have a lot of electromagnetic radio devices around us all the time. So your cell phone, your Wi-Fi router, all that stuff, everything that's Bluetooth, right? That's all radiation, essentially, in different levels. Can we ask if it gives us protection from those man-made frequencies?
Frequencies. Not really.
Hmm.
Okay. Not on the level we are being exposed.
Gotcha. Okay, good
Okay.
to know.
Now, that brings about a whole thing I have to ask because for whatever reason, and I always trust my first instinct, my first reaction, those earbuds that everybody's wearing, everybody wants these earbuds. For whatever reason, I cannot go near them. And
Yeah.
I'm asking, are those earbuds that people wear, are they quite dangerous? They can be. So prolonged usage I knew that. I knew that. And I've tried, but you try telling people that.
Oh, I
I
know. Trust me. I
knew.
try telling people that they don't want to hear it.
Like I hardly ever hold my cell phone up to my ear. You
Yeah.
know what I mean? If I'm on the phone, I have it on speaker and I have it away from me.
Good for
But
you. Good.
the earbuds is the frequency or the wave from like the Bluetooth, is that going, it's like you're opening the door for these things to go directly into the brain.
Yeah,
Is
you're putting it directly into your ear, right? So that radiation has an entry. Like normally your skull has some sort of protection from the radiation, just the thickness of it, but you're putting it directly inside your ear, which can go right into the brain. But not only that, a lot of these devices communicate from left to right. So you're sending the information through your skull to the other side, to the other earbud.
exactly
So,
right.
I mean,
But you try telling people that. I
I
mean,
know.
even my husband, we have this argument all the time. I'm like, I do not like these earbuds. I do not want them in your ear. I don't like them. And I've noticed they've actually altered his hearing a bit too.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, you're
But
going to see effects from this stuff in like 5, 10, 15 years because it takes time to develop things from this, right? So all the young people using it, like I just said, like the skull protects naturally, but when you're young, your skull isn't fully developed. So kids that are putting cell phones up to the side of their head directly, they have much less protection than a grown man or woman does. So, we're going to notice, and we already are seeing cancers that are supposed to be pretty rare in the brain, like gliomas. They're exploding in younger people. Like people in their 30s are getting brain gliomas, right? Because they've been using cell phones, since they were, 15. So yeah,
isn't that crazy? And when cell phones first came out, I remember I had like a little Nokia, and if I talked on it for longer than 5 minutes, I could actually taste electricity or the metal in my mouth. It was really
Wow.
bizarre. And I knew then from that point on, and it kept happening every time I used the phone. And I said, these things are bad for your brain. I'm not going to do that. So ever since then, speaker, and I hold the phone away from me. But those earbuds, I've always had a suspicion about them. And let's ask this question. Do the earbuds, are they basically the frequencies that are emitting when they go from left to right or right to left? Is that going directly through the brain? It is. It is going directly through the brain. So we're sending waves through the brain. Absolutely, we are. And does that alter the frequency or electricity pattern in the brain? It can over time, prolonged usage. Yes.
Right. Yeah.
Sorry about that. I know we got on a bit of a tangent, but anyway.
That's fine. We're gonna do it. We're gonna do I've been saying it forever that we're gonna do another electromagnetic frequency probe because I have a lot of questions and I want to actually come up with some solutions other than the ones that I already have. That'd be nice. But yeah, let's get back on track here and wrap up this mushroom probe. So, okay, I want to know about so wild mushrooms are the best. What kind of wild mushrooms are the best? So we asked about lion's mane. That's pretty good. What about geez, I'm trying to rack my brain here. What's the different trying
I
to think.
don't trust myself to forage for what.
I know, but you can buy, like if you go to farmers markets, they will have, that's a good place. I mean, these are really expensive, the morels. What about morels? Are they like a scale of 1 to 10 out of all the wild mushrooms? How do they score?
On a scale of 1 to 10, the morels. They score a 9.
Ooh, yeah, they're the most expensive ones. How about the oil that people make from them?
What about the oil? That's very good as well. Again, protecting the brain. Now, she's saying that these things protect the brain more so than having the anti-cancer properties, right?
Interesting. Yeah, there's studies to show that they are also they can not regrow. There's neurogenesis that happens, so you can actually like make new connections in the brain and regrow parts of the brain even at a small level. So it's pretty cool. Okay, that scores a 9. That's what about chanterelles on a scale of 1 to 10? How are they? How are they scoring?
They're about a 5.
How about wild shiitake? Shiitake.
How do they score on a scale of? They're a 7.
What is that? Oh my God, my brain is not working
What
as
about
good.
truffles? Those are mushrooms. Why are truffles so expensive? They taste so good.
That's
Any
what I believe. That's what morels are like a kind of truffle, but I could be wrong. Yeah,
yes, they are. Okay.
yeah. Yeah, so that's yeah, they're so expensive because they take forever to grow. Like you need, I'm pretty sure that's what it is that you need to grow them and then come back in like 10 years or whatever. And they're hard to find too. Like there's people that go and search them wild and they bring a dog with them and they train them how to sniff them out. And they're underground. Like you don't see them growing, I don't think, on the surface. So they're rare. They take a long time to grow. Um, okay. What the what's the name of the other one that looks weird? They're like tall and like spiny. Um, oh my
Can
God.
I ask, while you're thinking of that, I want to ask, what
Oh,
happens when they are dried? Because a lot of times you have dried mushrooms,
that's a good question.
preserve them. What about when they're dried? Does that alter the chemistry of the mushrooms? Yes, it does.
In a beneficial way or
No.
okay. Yeah, a lot of them will dry them so that they can use them culinarily, like they'll rehydrate them when they put them back into food when they're cooking. Okay, how about chicken of the woods? What is that on a 1 to 10? I got a picture of it here.
That what on a scale of 1 to 10, how does that score chicken at the woods? That's a 5.
Okay. Oyster mushrooms. That's what I was thinking of. Those are pretty common everywhere. How about oyster mushrooms? Scale of 1 to 10.
Those are a 9.
Oh, okay. Those are a lot easier to get than morels. Okay, we already asked about that.
So let's ask this question because most of us are not going to go foraging. I would probably kill myself if I did. And
Oh,
I'm
it's
not a
so fun.
woodsy type person, right? My idea of camping is a hotel without room service, right? Like,
Right.
I'm not going to go in a cabin in the woods. I don't want to be around poison ivy, poison oak, snakes, insects,
True.
but that's not me. So what about like the transportation of these mushrooms? Do they lose their potency, or if you harvest them, how soon after harvesting is the most optimum, time to eat them? Almost immediately. So in the transportation, about 3 days.
Okay. Well, that's doable if you know someone at like a farmer's market that's harvesting them there. Like we would actually go and sell them at the farmer's market. We'd pick them in the morning and then go right to the farmer's market. So
Wow.
I think that probably the easiest one you're gonna find is the oyster mushroom. So, and even in like, okay, so people that are growing the oyster mushrooms themselves, you could grow them in your backyard. So you can buy kits basically, and you could inoculate like a log in your backyard. You can also grow them in a bucket as well.
Hmm.
So, okay, so what if you were to do that? What if you were to grow it yourself? And is the effect not as good as just finding it in the forest somewhere?
Is the effect as good as it's not as good as finding it in a forest. Well, obviously, if you grow it on a log,
Then that's good, right?
that's good. But if you're growing it in a bucket, but the benefits of having it immediately available as opposed to it's been picked, and now I'm going to go buy it. It's been picked several days ago. That is, having it immediately available is better than going to buy something that was picked a long time ago in the store.
I think that might be your best bet. Oysters are I think they're pretty easy to grow. What about the substrate that you feed it? So that means like that when you grow it in a bucket, for instance, you got to feed it sugars. So is there like a specific something that we could feed it that would equal making it more potent, or is it just being in the wild itself that does it?
Oh, what about feeding it? It's being in the wild itself, which is the most beneficial thing.
Okay. All right. Well, you can't get around that. So if you got a backyard, you got a log, you can go find a log and you can buy these online. They're inoculation kits and you basically it's like a little syringe and you inject it into the log and then hopefully you can grow some your own wild mushrooms in your backyard. So that's an option if you really want to get into it. Okay. I think this was a pretty cool probe. Is there anything else that May Wan Ho wants to share about eating mushrooms in general? Is there something specific we can do for everybody?
Let's see what we can do for everybody. It's not a one size fits all
Yeah.
process.
Mm.
Um, but the brain benefits are the most important thing. I don't feel that has been discovered as of yet.
Yeah,
There's
like there's bits and pieces of it. Like I said, like they definitely prove that it increases neurogenesis. But yeah, maybe to the degree that you're saying, I don't think it has been proven yet.
it is a real preventative for Alzheimer's and dementia.
Yeah,
So
I've heard of
again,
that specifically.
that's running in the family. And oftentimes, let's ask May One Ho this: is Alzheimer's and dementia, is that pure genetics? No, it's not pure genetics, but being genetically predisposed increases your. She's saying like up to 90%. I'm like, really? I didn't
Yeah,
know
so
that.
Yeah, if you're predisposed to it, then the environment that you live in can trigger it very easily.
Oh, and what is a cause of it's toxins?
So there's something called amyloid plaques. Can we ask her if that is one of the causes for Alzheimer's?
And it's called, sorry,
Sorry, amyloid plaques.
amyloid. It's a contributing factor. Yes. What is
Okay.
that?
So it's like what it sounds like. It's a buildup in the brain. But I think it's like a natural process, but whatever, there's something triggering it in our environment where it's overgrowing, and then that there's theorizing that that is a contributor to Alzheimer's. So it could be from toxins that are creating more plaques. Um,
Hmm.
Also, I've heard, even just basic things like sleep. Like if you're predisposed to Alzheimer's and you're not getting proper sleep, then the body can't detox the brain. So like that's just like some low hanging fruit. You really have to work on your sleep if you're that runs in the family.
Okay. So does the lack of sleep really make the brain vulnerable to, diseases like she's saying it makes the brain more vulnerable to heart attack and strokes. Like strokes obviously can affect the brain big time.
Right.
Um, and lack of sleep is a contributing factor for that. She says it's more of a risk factor than dementia or Alzheimer's.
Right.
Sleep
Okay.
is essential. So, and I'm
And
saying
that's the number
why?
one, it's one of the number one killers in, if you look at the data, like in North America, is like heart attack, stroke, right? Or at least heart attacks, anyways, heart disease. So there you go.
Hmm.
Everybody's sleep is messed up that I talk to. It's like definitely a number one thing. And even if you think your sleep is great, we're living in the modern world and our normal is not normal. Right? It's not like when we didn't have artificial lights and computers and phones and food at all hours of every day, 365 days a year, all those things, if you go camping for 2 weeks, things change quite dramatically if you're not around that stuff. So
Okay, well, I'll let you tell me all about that because Liz is not going camping.
yeah.
No, I
Well,
don't like it.
just as an example, anyways. But yeah, not saying that you have to go camping for 2 weeks. Don't worry.
Oh my.
Um,
All right. Well,
sure.
this is a really informative probe. So
Yeah, I
thank
think so too. All right, guys, eat your mushrooms and get your sleep.
yeah, really.
Love the
And if
story.
you want to make contact with Mr. Photon, his details will be in the comments section. He also has a tip jar. A little goes a long way for where Mr. Photon is. So, buy him a coffee, buy him a lunch. Thank
Yeah,
you.
I'll also just mention that that I do health consults, and it's specifically to environmental health. So I'm talking about everything in your environment, from light, electromagnetic fields, the way that you breathe, grounding, all the things that people kind of take for granted in their life. How we're eating obviously is an obvious one, but I have a little bit of a unique spin on that, and how the environment affects your metabolism. So if you're interested in learning more about that or booking a consultation with me, you can contact me at digitalfreedomtactics@protonmail.com.
Excellent. And again, that will be down below in the comment section. Thank you so much.
Thank you.